Hey guys, welcome to Horology Biology. Today I've got an Enicar Sherpa Diver 300 sent in. This was sent in through a guy that I know who'd basically seen one pop up on eBay, which was missing a bezel. Now that's not super fresh or super nice, but of course yours truly had a bezel, so this was obviously meant to be. He sent the watch to me and I've basically stripped this watch down, I've run it through the cleaning machine, I've inspected it, and I've rebuilt it, and the results, super fresh, super nice. So once again, let's get ready and strip down one of these super juicy, super fresh, super nice Enicar Diver watches. Now this is one that you don't see that often. It is an entry-level one in my opinion, but don't underestimate it. They have really nice dials. You see on the front of the dial that it has that orange kind of chapter ring around it. I've seen some that come with orange, I've seen some that come with yellow. And now that I'm thinking about it, maybe it's just the same color, but it's just faded. But here it is. But as I mentioned in the intro, a guy that I know reached out to me and he'd seen one of these and he was like, oh man, please tell me that you have a bezel for this. I was like, of course I have a bezel. So he went ahead and bid on it and obviously won the auction. And here we are today. But man, look at the dial. The dial is in a really nice condition. These watches are around 36.5 millimeter in size, so it's a good size. Looks really nice on a NATO strap, preferably one with a black and an orange stripe on it. I used to have one of these watches as well, and there's also pictures of this same watch, the one that I owned, in the back of the Discovering Vintage Enicar book by Martijn van der Ven. So it's nice to see another one of these pop up. And also, these watches always seem to come from Eastern Europe. We're in the Serbia region, because they all have, which is also strange, they all have a personalized inscription on the case back. I cannot remember exactly what it means, but they all have the same. Mine had it, this one has it, and other ones that I've seen pop up on eBay over the years also have the same. So a very strange little touch, but yeah, it's one of those things. So I removed the dial, obviously the watch is out of the case, and now I can get to stripping down this nice watch. This is a hand wind caliber. It is the AR161. It's nice to work on. It's not a super complicated movement, but the base of it is still the same as most of the Enicar movements. So of course it is nice to work on like the other ones. It has got a really nice date wheel, all in red for the numbers, which is super nice. So I've took the cannon pinion off. One thing about the cannon pinion that I did notice when I was checking the watch, when you're setting the time, it felt very loose in the fingers. So I was definitely thinking that the cannon pinion needed tightening up. That is something that I do later on in the video. I give it a nip up with a special tool that I have, and you will see that later on. So off comes the balance, and I flip that over so it causes no stress, and obviously I put that aside until I need it later on. I've mentioned that before, it's always best to keep those out of the way and keep them safe, because a hairspring is not something that you want to mess up. So just removing any power from this watch. This watch barely ran. If you gave it a bit of a shake, it would run a little bit. The winding on it was full, but when I was trying to remove the tension, there was not a massive amount that was coming out of it. So I'm suspecting there's an issue with the mainspring as well. Other than that, I'm probably suspecting that it just needs a very good service, and it's probably not been done for a very long time. The case on these watches are chrome plated. They're not stainless steel, which is a strange one, but it's one of the few Enicars which are actually chrome plated. And the good thing about this one is it is in actually good condition, because that's the annoying thing with chrome plating. Once it goes and it scratches, you see all that bronze underneath and it doesn't look nice. No sir, it does not look nice. So just removing the ratchet wheel now that the tension from the watch is gone. And this ratchet wheel is not in the best of condition. Under closer inspection, it actually needed replacing because a couple of the teeth were quite bent. So that could be an indication of why it was not winding correctly as well. So off goes the click and the click spring. And now I can just remove the crown wheel and the crown wheel core. That's just held in with 2 screws, as you can see. And then I can just put those away in the parts box, ready for the cleaning later on. So special thanks to the members of the Horology Biology channel, also to my Patreons as well. That is super appreciated that you guys have got confidence in me, and I really do appreciate it that you have become members of the channel. If you other guys want to become members, you can click on the join button and it provides you all the information, but you basically get special HB super fresh, super nice emojis. You also get priority replies as well in case you've got watch related questions. And of course, most importantly, it helps the channel grow. And for me, that is such a big thing because this is all off my own back. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of work. So you guys helping, supporting what I'm doing, man, that's like mass appreciated. So I cannot thank you enough for that. So off comes the train of wheel bridge, and then I can remove the wheels underneath, center wheel, third wheel, just removing the mainspring barrel as well. And then I can pop off the escape wheel. And there's a little bridge that's over the top of the escape wheel, but if you're careful, you can remove it quite easily just by the side. You just don't want to pull it directly up because then you're going to catch it, and that's not fresh. No, sir. And then just removing this last bridge, which holds the wheel underneath. Held in with 2 screws. They're quite small as well, so they don't have a lot of thread on them. And you have to be careful with them because the last thing you want to do is over tighten them. I've done it once before, and you will shear the head off, and that's not cool. Because then you got to mess around trying to get it out, and it's just a pain, seriously. Hey, but an interesting thing as well. So later on this week, I will be moving locations. Super fresh. It's not as exciting as it sounds, but basically I'll be moving locations within my location, let's say, but it's to a bigger room. And I'm actually looking forward to it because I've got some better plans. I've got some lights ordered, so for better lighting. Also the background area for the new videos, I think it will look not what you're used to. So it's going to be really interesting how I'm going to be setting this up, and I'm looking forward to when I record the next videos. So it'll probably be the one after this one, that it will look quite different as a backing ground. So yeah, that's something to look forward to, and definitely something that I'm excited about moving forward. So I flipped the movement over and I've taken off the minute wheel and the intermediate wheel. And then I'm taking off that date disc as well with those super nice red numerals. Oh, they look nice. If you're enjoying this video so far, please hit a like on this. I would super appreciate that. You can also subscribe to the channel as well if you wish. If you do subscribe, then you're of course going to find out when the next HB juicy goodness is going to drop. And they will obviously bang them out in your notification box. So it's a win for both people. So movement's flipped over, and obviously now I'm continuing breaking this down. I'm removing these date changing wheels. There's 2 in question. One's held with a screw, the other one's not, as you can see. Sometimes both of them are held in with a screw, by the way, on similar Enicar calibers. And now that's out of the way, I can break down the keyless works. So just removing the setting lever spring, which you can see is broken. And once again, what have I said before about this? Man, it's not super fresh and not super nice. Broken parts put back in the watch. The setting lever spring is broken, as you can see, but the top of it, the arm, nowhere to be found. No sir, nowhere to be found. So of course, someone has worked on this watch once before and has basically put in the broken part back in the watch. It really irritates me because, yeah, I mean, I've already sourced a part for this. It's not that hard, so it's clearly a financial thing, but the part in question was not that expensive. I think it was 28 euros. And of course it's needed. You need it. It's a completely important part. So the movement's completely stripped down now, as you can see. So I'm just basically pegging all these jewels, getting all that dirty grime out of there, cleaning it up with some old Rodico as well. And then I can pop the balance back on, ready for the cleaning machine. Putting the balance back on, it's the safest place to keep it, because when you're running it through the wash, at least it's keeping the hairspring nice and safe. Definitely the best way to do it. And just pop in that last screw. Give it a quick check, and now I can break down this mainspring and find out what's going on in there. Now you're not going to notice it off maybe, but there's a massive kink in this mainspring, and it did give me a bit of trouble. I removed the arbor, and then I try to get the mainspring out, and oof, there it goes. Disaster. It was broken. There was a massive kink in it. I was going to replace it anyway because I had a feeling there was a big problem with it, but I didn't expect it to fly all the way across the bench like that. It nearly took my damn eye out, man. Not fresh, and not cool, and not how it should be done. So also just cleaning this with some pegwood, getting all that old grime out of there. Makes it easier for the cleaning machine. Better to get away the most of the big chunks, so to speak. So just popping off the original crystal, and I want to basically just remove some of this man cheese from the case. So you can lightly do that with some pegwood, and you can just rub at it. It's not going to scratch the case as long as you're careful, and it's just a good idea to get rid of some of that old DNA. Now for the crystal, I'm going to remove the original tension ring in there. I like to keep it as original as I can. If it's something that can be restored and cleaned up, then it's definitely something you should do. This crystal is not cracked, and that's a good sign, because I wanted to keep this original crystal rather than replacing it, and if I can restore it, then that's a good thing. So I'm basically just removing the man cheese off of the side of it, and that will make it easier later. Putting the case and the crystal and the other parts of the case into the ultrasonic cleaner. Give that a good rinse. And I usually leave that in there for about 10 minutes. And now I can basically prep up the parts all ready for the cleaning machine. They all go in their individual little baskets, and the smaller baskets as well for the screws and also for the smaller parts. Keeps everything secure when it's in the machine. So now this is what I was talking about, restoring this crystal. So I basically run this through different grades of sandpaper. I start with a 360, and then I go on to an 800, and then 1000 and 1200, and then I finish it off with some polywatch. I've obviously speeded it up because, guys, you don't want to sit through all of this, no sir. But the results, that's what it's all about. And if you can restore it, and if you put some elbow grease into it, you can make it look like new, as you can see. Super gleam. So just popping in the crystal tension ring again, that just snaps into place. And then I can just put this back onto the case. Just simply done with a simple crystal press tool. Just evenly presses it down. And now I can put on the bezel that I've got. Now this has got a wire ring underneath it, and it simply just clicks into place. Can be a little bit fiddly, but as long as you are persistent, you will get it on, and it just fits in nicely. Already looking so much better.
Vintage watch specialists stock a diverse collection of hand-picked watches, including vintage, military, and modern pieces for both popular and micro brands. These guys have got new stock arriving every week and offer worldwide shipping and a 12-month warranty on all watches for your peace of mind. 12-month warranty, guys. Seriously, it doesn't get much better than that. Even I wouldn't give 12 months warranty. It's not normal, but it's super fresh. Get exclusive access to new stock by registering for their newsletter, which I will provide in a link in the description. You can also contact vintage watch specialists whenever you like for expert advice on your next watch purchase.
So everything's out of the cleaning machine, and now we can start with the rebuild of this super juicy diver. So first thing that I always do is I remove the capstones from the balance, and some people do this at the end, but the reason I do it now is because the balance is already on the watch, or the movement I should say. And I basically remove the capstones, and then I want to remove any of that old dried oil, and I simply do this by rubbing it on some paper. You don't need to go crazy at this, just a light rub. Then I basically, once I've done that, is I pop it into some fix-a-drop treatment. This will keep the oil in place. So when you apply the oil, it's not going to run all over the place because it's such a small area that you oil in. You don't want to go crazy on this. You really need a tiny little amount. You want to cover around between 50 and 70% of the circumference of the capstone, and then you pop it back together. It's two-piece, and then you can simply just pop that straight back onto the movement. Sometimes it can be a little bit fiddly, as you can see. I'm having a little bit of difficulty with this one. This one does not want to go in its house. Go in your home. Now once you've got it in place, then you simply just close the inker block spring, and that just holds together on the two sides. There's two tension levers, and you just push those underneath and they click into place. And I just clean it off with a little bit of Rodico on top. I repeat the process for the other side, but I'm not showing it because it's been shown so many times. You get the gist. Now I can move on to the mainspring. I'm adding some 1300 because it's a hand winder, so I don't need to add any chrono grease for this. It's not an automatic. And then I can pop on this new mainspring. Now when these come, they're always color coded. So the color, sometimes they're green, red, blue. The color is the one that you want facing you, and that's the way that you know that you're putting it in the right way. You simply just line it up, press it into place with your back end of your tweezers, and you're good to go. Pop the arbor in, and then using this little press tool, you can then put on the barrel lid and press it in place. Simply just clicks in, but it's really cool because it does it securely and you're not going to bend anything. So once I've done that, now I will basically remove the balance because I don't need it anymore. Not until later on, until we fire this baby up. And then once I've got that off, I can just put that aside, keep it somewhere safe. Also put a little cover over it as well because it's clean now, so I don't want to get any dust going onto this. And I'll just pop it aside and keep it safe. So a little 1300, and I'm just adding that to where the center wheel is going to go. Also, I put a little bit as well where the mainspring will go as well, the mainspring barrel. And then I can put this bridge on top and hold it in place with the two screws. Like I said before as well, don't go crazy tightening these down. You don't need to tighten them too much. They're really small, they're not thick, and they only need about 2 or 3 turns, and that's enough. So in goes the barrel, and then I can put the barrel bridge on top. Now on these Enicars, these barrel bridges are quite small, as you can see. Not like those big chrono ones, no sir. And that's just held in with 2 screws as well. I've already checked the center as well, just to make sure that there's no play, and everything was pretty good. But they are nice watches to build up, I'm not gonna lie. And it's super satisfying as well once you get to the end. And especially with this watch, I must admit, when you see the results at the end, this is a watch that looks nice. So building up the trainer wheels, making sure that everything's aligned. I added a little bit of 1300 to the center and then just pop it in place. And then I can put the trainer wheel bridge on top. Now you just want to secure it down with some pegwood while you make sure that all of the pivots line up in the jewel holes. And once you know that everything's free and it's turning well, then you can go ahead and screw it down. Don't do it before, because you're only going to break the pivots, and that's not fresh, and you're going to cause yourself a headache. It's held in with 3 screws. Like I said, take your time with this. I basically just keep it secured down, and as long as you got it held down, then you'll be able to screw it in place without any problems. That seems pretty free. So basically now oiling it up, using 90-10 on these, and then I use 1300 on the center wheel. And then I repeat the process as well on the back side. But I mentioned it earlier on, man, I am super looking forward to moving rooms. It's going to be really interesting having more space, because I have been quite confined. I think it's definitely going to make a big impact for me anyway, from a working environment, and also from a more relaxed environment. Definitely going to be more super fresh, super nice. So on goes the crown wheel and the crown wheel core, and that's just held in with 2 screws. Sometimes with these it's just 1 screw, and then you got to remember that it's a reverse threaded screw. Now because it's held in with 2, it just screws the normal way. So a little 1300 onto where the click will go and the click spring. Now there's no tension on that click spring. It literally just lives underneath the ratchet wheel, and then the click goes around it. So it's not the kind of spring that's going to fly across the room, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Because there's nothing worse than that. No sir. So on goes the ratchet wheel. Like I said, I had to replace this because there were damaged teeth. They weren't broken, but they were bent. And bent teeth, then when it's hitting up against the crown wheel, it's not going to turn it correctly. And the more that you wind it and you get more tension in the mainspring, then the harder it is to wind. And when you're hitting those bent ones, it's just not going to work correctly. So just cleaning any excess oil off with some Rodico. Always good to clean up your work as you go along, because it's a service watch at the end of the day. It's clean. So this is what I was referring to. This is a cannon pinion tightener. It's from Bergeon, and you simply just pop the cannon pinion in. It looks like a pair of pliers, but you see that little wheel on the side? You can make micro adjustments to tighten it, which basically means that you're not going to break it. And it really is a nice piece of kit, I must admit. I really like it. So once that's done, I just pop on the cannon pinion, and that's friction fit, so it will just snap in place. I added a little bit of 9504 just before that. And now I'm moving on to the winding pinion and the sliding pinion. Also adding some grease as well onto these parts. They're high friction parts, so it's important that you do grease them up. And then in goes the sliding pinion as well. And then I've just popped in the winding stem with the crown, adding a little 1300 to where the rest of the setting lever parts are going and the keyless works. And this part is for the quick set. It has a quick set, so when you pull the crown out to the furthest extension, it will quick set the date rather than you having to turn it all the time. And then in goes the setting lever. It's not a screw one, as you can see, it's a push down one. I much prefer these ones. No messing around having to screw it and unscrew it. You simply just push it down and it will just release the winding stem. Super nice. And in goes the yoke, and then I can pop in the yoke spring as well. Hold that now with some pegwood, and it'll keep it secure. And then you can basically just draw the tweezers across it so it snaps against the yoke. I always like to keep it held down then and while I oil it, so I use a little bit of 1300 across it so that it's basically got some lubrication, as it is going to be moved around quite a bit when you're setting the time on the watch. So in goes the minute wheel and the intermediate wheel. And then I can pop on this replaced setting lever spring. Now this setting lever spring that I'm putting on, it's not a new one. It is one that I've basically got in my parts box, and I'm going to replace it when I get the new one. I'm still waiting for this in the mail, but I wanted to finish this video, so basically I wanted to use the one that I had and yeah, show you guys. So a little 1300 on these posts where these date wheels are going to go, these date adjustment wheels. This one just lives on top, no screw holding it in place, and then the other one lives on top of that one and is screwed down with a longer screw, so it obviously holds the first one in place. And now I can move on to where I put in the date jumper. Also added a little 1300 on that as well. And I don't put the spring in until afterwards because obviously, yeah, you need to have the date disc on there to have something to push up against. I said it before, I really like this date disc. This is one of the things that I really like about Enicar when they have these red ones. The red ones just pop. They really make a big difference. They're much better than the black ones. And it's basically covered by two plates, one on each side. This one also covers the keyless works as well and the minute wheel. It's clever how it keeps everything in place. So I always pop this one on first, and then once I've done that, I move to the other side and then add the spring for the date jumper. I just find it easier that I've got at least half of the date wheel or the date disc secure. I also add a little bit of lubrication 1300 to it as well, so it makes it easier when you're changing the date. And then once I've done that, I can just add on the extra plate that lives on top of it and keeps everything in place. And that's also held in with two screws. These are probably the smallest screws that they have on the Enicar watches. Really tiny little screws, so you need to use a really smaller screwdriver for these. I think it's a 0.8 millimeter head, which is pretty small. So completely finished with the dial side of the watch, and we are really close to finishing this. So I've just put the pallets in some fixer drop, so that's when I oil the exit jewel. I want to make sure that the oil doesn't run. Just blowing it dry, and then I use a little bit of wood to clean the pivots as well, because I want to remove the fixer drop from that, because I want to reduce as much friction as possible to get the best amplitude result on the watch. And by removing the fixer drop off of the pivots, it's a nice tip that I can give, definitely. Also blow it off, and then I can pop those in place. And also remember as well, when you put the cock on for the pallets, do not oil that jewel. You do not need to oil this jewel. Some people do it and I see it, and it's not how it should be done. No sir, do not oil it. It will create friction which will lower the amplitude of the watch, and that's not cool. So I'm just checking. I added a little bit of winding before I screwed it in, and I'm just checking everything's in place, which it is, and then I can basically just screw that cock down. Add in some winds, and guys, we're nearly there. I can pop the balance in, and then that's the movement pretty much complete. Oh, and that's nice to see it fire up straight away. Always super nice when it fires up immediately. But guys, if you're valuing what I'm doing and you're enjoying this video, please feel free to write me a comment in the comment section. It definitely helps the algorithm. If you could hit a like on the video as well, it also helps the algorithm, and I'm definitely trying to grow this channel. So anything that you can do in regards to helping me out, it would be super appreciated. So I've just added the hour wheel to the other side, and then I've put in a dial washer. The dial washer was actually missing on this watch when I first broke it down, so I put a replacement one in. And now I can put on this really nice matte black dial. I mean, look at that dial, guys. It's so nice. Now just putting in the dial feed screws. There's two, one on each side. And they'll just keep the dial in place, stop it moving around. But it really is a beautiful dial. For an entry-level diver of Enicar, without Sherpa on the dial, it is a stunner. So I'm just setting the date so it snaps over at 12 before I put the hands on. And there we go, click. And now I can put these hands back on. Now first start with the hour hand, make sure that it's aligned at 12 because obviously it's a date watch. And then once I've done that, I can put on the minute one as well. And then of course I can put on the sweeper. But these hands as well, they're a little bit different to the traditional Enicar hands that you see on some of the other models like the Sherpa Jet or the Sherpa Guide. They do look a little bit different. They do suit the watch very well. And the sweeper hand is the same as some of the other models, but I'm referring to the hour and the minute hand. They just look a little bit different, but like I said, they suit it really well and it's good to go. So just checking sure that none of the hands are touching when you're putting these on. That's super important. You don't want that kind of problem. And then I can put on this super nice red sweeper, which is very traditional Enicar, as we've seen on many of the other models. It would just make such a difference if it was like a normal stick hand. A red triangle hand definitely makes a big difference. That's what you want. And there we go, guys. Those hands look really nice. Nothing touching, everything flowing as it should, and that's what you want to see. So now we are getting super close, and now I can case up the watch. So just giving it a quick blow, make sure there's no dust on the dial or no dust on the inside of the crystal, because there's nothing worse than that. It gets irritating if there's a little hair under there. You don't want that. You simply just lay it over and then turn everything upside down so that you can get to the back of the movement. So adding some 9504 grease to the winding stem, and then I can feed that back into the watch. Like I mentioned, there's no screw for this, so you simply just click it in and it will just snap in place. Such a nice design, so much easier. Now the movement has got two movement holder screws. They're quite big screws, obviously, because they're keeping the movement in place. And there's one on each side and you simply just screw them in. So last but not least, we need to put a new gasket on this watch. So I measured it, found one the right size, believe it was 31mm in size. And then I grease it up with some silicone grease. And then I apply it around the back of the case back. It's not a bayonet case back, it's a screw back Sherpa 300 case back. And I simply just apply that around it and then pop it back on. And the easiest way to do this is to use one of the balls. I rarely use a wrench. Using a ball minimizes the scratching. There basically will be no scratching, and it just works so much easier. So hitting it up on the Timergrapher, I haven't even regulated it yet. I will do this after a couple of days, but already I'm super happy with these results. High amplitude in the 270s, that's perfectly fine. Beat error is non-existent, which is even more fresh. And we've got quite a consistent rating, so this is pretty good considering it's not even been regulated yet or the oils haven't even settled. And there we have it, guys. How juicy does this look? This guy's going to be so happy with this. I already know it. The Enicar Sherpa 300 1080M diver. Super fresh, super nice. Guys, if you like the video, please hit a like on it. Feel free to subscribe to the channel as well. That way you will get all the notifications of when the next HB goodness is going to drop. And if you want to watch another video, why don't you check out this one that's showing on the screen right now. Okay guys, until next time.